Hey friends, welcome to Life Made Full. This podcast is centered around business, faith, and family, three areas that are dear to our heart. If you are a business owner in ministry, own a family business, or you have a family, join us today around our family table to discuss these topics and more.
Yeah, it's live.
Welcome back to Life Made Full. This podcast is based around faith, family, and business. As you know, the three things that are dear to all three of our hearts. Mm-hmm. I am Micah, and I am glad to be here with you today. On today's episode, we're going to just dive in, talk about, just let the conversation kind of roll itself. We're not script. I do have a few things that I'd like to talk about possibly today if we get to it, but we might not, don't know. So how are you, Christy?
Good.
2 weeks from the baby girl being here. Well,
Yep.
Is it 2 weeks?
That could be a good thing to
it's
talk about.
2 weeks tomorrow.
2, yeah.
That's something you should touch base on, is running everything, being pregnant.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. 2 weeks. Oh, so 2 weeks tomorrow, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. 2 weeks tomorrow. So we're going to have another baby girl, which we're very excited about. Can you say her name?
Yeah, it's Ocean.
Ocean
Ava.
Somebody has said when I had told her that what we are naming her, I say we. Did you like how I said?
It was yeah.
You like how I said we? When you decided that name, one of the ladies that I coached, she said, I love that. She said, oceans are deep. Mm-hmm. And I told you that. You're like, yeah. So 2 weeks from delivery. Yep. How are things as far as running the business? Obviously, we have a family business. You all know that. That's obviously, that's probably why you're here listening to us. So tell us about running the business being 2 weeks from delivery.
My brain's getting foggy. That's for sure. That's what I was telling her. My sister-in-law, Alicia, which, we talked about her last time and how she runs Columbus. I know she's going to be stepping in here soon and really helping me because, my brain is not what it was.
So pregnancy brain is a real thing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I know you probably think it's not.
I do
it's
not.
Scientifically proven that it is.
She can't remember.
Yeah, it was. She
almost 30 years ago.
Yeah.
She did remind me this morning. She said, "I know it's hard for you to remember, being it's been almost 30 years since you've had a baby.
Yeah,
it's hard for you to remember what it's like." And I I don't remember.
No, I know you don't.
So it's easy for me to say, "Come on, let's go."
Yep. If I didn't bring her back to her remembrance a little bit, she would have me answering those phones while delivering. And that's...
What did we say? We said, all you need, once you have her, all you need is your laptop.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, we'll see how long of a maternity leave. What is the legal stance on that?
I don't know. Don't look it up either. We don't need to know that. No. She'll be off 2 weeks.
Pretty
2
sure
weeks
6
max.
is standard, but...
Which is, again, we talk about, obviously, the family business and keeping it very simple, keeping it very tight, which... that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we have systemized our business to where it runs itself. Mm-hmm. It pretty much runs itself outside of obviously employees. So we pride ourselves on that. So you had a lot to do with that as well. So you can fault yourself for that one. So Doug, how are you? Any woes for you this past week?
Yeah. Just a little few hookups.
Want to talk about that just for a minute?
Oh, I don't mind.
What happened to you? So Doug called us. We were at our beach house this past week, Doug and I, and we were there for a week. I was supposed to get a lot of work done there as far as with my blog that we're starting and some other things, which I didn't get too much accomplished, but Doug called us I can't remember what day it was, but Doug called us, and you take it from there. What happened?
I just took a picture and sent it to you.
Yeah,
You didn't
he
even
sent
know.
a picture.
You didn't send the picture till later.
No, he sent it that morning.
Yeah, you didn't know. You didn't
Oh.
even know I was in the
That's
urgent
because
care.
you
Is that what you're
silent-
talking
Oh yes, that's right. You did send a picture of where you were at, but I
Right.
thought you were talking about the picture of the actual place.
Can we back up to why you don't get our fam chat messages?
Sure, go ahead. Roll me under the bus. I'm used to it.
Because she said, no, you sent it later. And we all got it that morning, but it's because she silences her notifications for our fam chat. So
We have a fam chat, and yes, I did silence them only because I couldn't take the dinging. The constant dinging. Now, y'all know we all live on the same property, but we're a very close family. And so that family chat, especially between you and your dad and Malachi, I would say you and your dad go back quite a bit.
It's mainly Dad.
yeah, Dad,
That's true.
Dad blows it up.
That's very true.
Every little video he sees on Facebook, he shares.
Or
That's very,
meme or
or yeah,
something,
he is into the meme, so that's very true. Well, yes. Now, granted, he's really not too much on Facebook. He gets on there to do Marketplace. He loves Marketplace. So anyway, all right. So go ahead, Douglas. Now, if I get sidetracked, just bring me back. Okay.
That's impossible. I
Just bring me back.
can't do that. Been trying to do that for my whole life, so
I'm just
I
dead
just
in my
go
ways.
with it.
Just roll with it. No, going back to what your week.
So I was just noticing that I was not myself, extremely tired. I was taking breaks in between of, like, I was working on my truck at the time and taking breaks in between, which I don't really do that. So I knew there was something up, and me and Alicia were walking, and I was like, man, I think I have signs of like some type of sickness or something. Like, I just don't feel good. It was weird because I had a headache and I was just extremely fatigued, no congestion, nothing like that. And I get home, and that night I took my shirt off, and Alicia sees a giant bullseye on my torso.
I don't know how you missed that, but
If you could see it, I agree with you. I don't know
Well,
how
as
you
you
missed it either.
I'm not staring at myself in the mirror very often with my shirt
You're not
off.
vain.
So yeah, I went to urgent. I immediately knew what it was, which is it's Lyme's disease. It's an instant sign of it when you see a bullseye, and especially being we live in the woods, and
Well-
I'm always in the woods. I was hunting the week prior.
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, go to urgent care. The doctor said he didn't even want to run any tests, that he wanted me to start some antibiotics as soon as possible. And then the next 2 days were absolutely miserable. I think I had a mental breakdown at 4 a.m. one of the nights. And been symptom-free, though, the last 4 days, so...
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. So
Praise the
They
Lord.
say if you catch it early, you're golden. It's pretty much 100% curable if you catch it early. And he was confident that it was early, and I thought it was early, so I should be golden.
but at first he said he thought you didn't even have it before he seen the doctor.
Oh yeah.
Because
the
he said he
doctor-
hears that all the time.
He
People
said
saying they have
everybody's
Lyme's
always saying they
disease.
got Lyme's disease, and then as soon as so he said he was pretty much rolling his eyes at me, describing my symptoms, and then saying I have Lyme's disease. And as soon as I pulled my shirt up, he's like, "Oh yeah,
I think you do.
you definitely got it."
So they didn't even run tests. They
Nope.
didn't have to.
He said that there was absolutely no point. He knew for a fact with that bullseye, and it takes time, because they do some, I believe it's blood work, right, Chrissy? Isn't that what
Yeah.
they did on?
Lexi. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Lexi had it too.
And
Yeah.
that
Our
would take
ticks
time.
must just be bad out here.
It must be.
Well, yeah, everybody says they never hear of anybody that gets
Yeah.
Lyme's disease, and we've had 2 on our, in our
Yeah.
area property
Which is
in
a
the
little
last
alarming.
4 years, within 4 years apart.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Lexi's, when was that? Was that last year? It was last year, or the year before. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
been within like 2 years.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
So did you have a tick on you or anything? Did you see a tick?
I had
or?
to. I never saw it. I never
Okay.
pulled
That's what
one
happened
off.
with Lexi.
Okay.
And this year, the ticks haven't been that bad out here. last year we were checking ourselves every day, me and the boys, when we'd come in. But
Right.
this year they haven't been that bad,
Right.
so we haven't been checking ourselves.
Well, I guess you will now. Be checking the boys too.
I'm going to probably start putting Frontline down my back like what you put on the dogs.
It's probably, well, I don't know. I don't know if you can put that on. Are you like, can you put that on humans?
No. I don't believe so.
All right. So that's,
So yeah, I was literally, I wasn't doing anything for 2 days, not working on the computer. I couldn't even work on the computer. It was just me laying down.
yeah.
It was awful. An awful bedridden.
Bedridden.
It was. I would take almost anything, any sickness that I've ever been through over that. That was awful.
Yeah.
It was mainly just it feels like you've slept, like, because the Lyme's disease attacks your joints. That's the main thing it goes for, is your joints and your central nervous system. So
Right.
it's your spine,
Right.
basically,
Right.
essentially. So I had this crazy lower back pain. That was what was the first sign. And I just chalked that up that I haven't been in the gym in a while, and my spine needed stretched because I haven't worked out. And then, but then I was laying in bed, and it felt like I had slept on like a concrete pad for 2 years of my life, like laying like this with my shoulder up like that.
Wait. My mind just instantly went to when we traveled a lot this past summer.
Oh, it was that a million times worse than that.
Then your pull-out couch beds.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was worse than that.
Oh, 1,000 times worse than that.
Must be pretty bad.
I mean, it's no joke when it attacks your joints. It's no joke. And then it goes for your shoulders and your knees. It says it goes for your biggest joints in your body. Those are your biggest joints in your body. So
Well,
it
you're
got me
the
good.
only one that can relate to Lexi, because Lexi was crying, telling me her legs, everything hurt when she was dealing with it.
Oh, I can't
Poor baby
imagine.
girl. Poor baby girl.
Yeah.
And you didn't know either. You just
I-
knew something was.
I had taken her to the doctor 4 times before they finally figured it out, because hers would keep coming in the mornings and she would get those
Yes.
red circles.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time I kept taking her to the doctor, they would be gone. It was weird. So finally I took pictures, but then that time they stayed, and her doctor was like, oh yeah, like something's wrong.
Right.
So
And-
they did all the
Right.
blood work.
Thank God you were in North Carolina when all that happened.
Why?
Because you wouldn't have understood while I'm trying to get you, laying down or whatever, trying to get me to do something else.
Me?
Yeah.
You think I would do that? Not when you're sick. Not when you're
Telling me it's
sick.
not that bad.
Nope.
I'm a very sympathetic person.
Yeah.
Despite of what these two say.
Mhm.
I'm a very sympathetic person.
We just talked
Maybe-
about this.
Just wrap yourself up and go.
Probably to your friends, not to me.
That is
I
not
don't even
true.
think it's to her friends. If
This
so,
podcast is about truth, Douglas. That is not true. Now you know that is not true. All right. So I'm glad I am glad you're feeling better. And we did pray for you, just FYI, just to let you know, we did pray
Bentley
for
did
you.
too.
Oh yes, Bentley did. Let's talk about this little feller. So Bentley, obviously that's Christy's youngest boy. I got 3 grandsons. I got my 3. I love them 3 boys. I love them. And Bentley prayed for you, and this is how he says it. He says, "Dear Heavenly Father."
Yeah.
Dear Heavenly Father, and he did pray, and he prayed for you
every
yesterday.
night for like 3
Yes.
days.
Yes, he prayed for you yesterday. I heard him because Chrissy had shared that Bentley had prayed for everybody, Papa, because Doug's been a little under the weather as well. You've been under the weather, and Bentley prayed for everybody. And you said what?
That he went through everybody. And that's why I said he even prayed for, he said, an Uncle Douglas. But then he left you out.
And you told him,
That he forgot.
Mama, and he said, "Oh."
He said, okay, let's close our eyes again and let's pray.
I told him, I said, "You forgot Mama?" He said, but I remembered and I prayed. So
Yep.
we're training them, train them young to learn how to pray. And Bentley can pray.
Mm-hmm. He does better than me than praying out loud.
The next time
I,
you're at
like,
church
freeze
and they
out.
ask you to pray out loud,
Oh, Lord.
let me just hold on. Let me go get Bentley. He can take my place.
I have been asked to pray out loud before at church, and I asked if I could skip.
Why do you
That
think?
was my
that might
that
be.
was my wording. Can I skip this time?
Let's talk about that. Why do you think it is? Why do you think it is so hard to pray out loud in front of people? I don't have a problem with it.
Of course not.
Which that's just my personality. But why do you think that is? Like, you can ask somebody, can you dismiss us in prayer, or can you pray over somebody, or whatever it is? Why do you think it's hard for some to have the spotlight on them and pray out loud? Why is that hard for you?
For me, it's because I feel like I'll mess up my wording, or I don't know. Obviously, people get hung up, I think, in big words or, big prayers, and when really it doesn't have to be like that. It's just supposed to be simple. As I said, like, Bentley keeps it simple, but yet
effective.
I'm like, he does better than me. So I think we just get caught up in our own head in comparison as well.
Right.
Because obviously you're hearing pastors pray, preachers pray, and they do have sometimes those bigger words and everything. And so I think it just gets nerve-wracking.
Right.
I always just chalk mine up to an attack of the enemy.
Which is real. You think attacks are real?
What do you mean?
Do you think attacks of the enemy are real?
Yeah, I just said it.
Well, I'm more.
But I don't know if that's legit. Why I struggle to pray out loud sometimes.
Do you think that though maybe the more that you would do it, the more that you would stretch yourself, the easier it would come?
Maybe.
It's kind of like exercise or whatever you do. The more you do it, the easier it is.
Maybe.
Because I think that is, I think that's a real deal, that people do struggle in that area of learning how to step out and pray out loud, because I think I'm with you on that. And I do agree with you too, but I'm leaning more with you that I think that we get hung up in our own self and in our own head that we're not going to sound as spiritual.
Yeah.
As some others, or the words might not come as easy for you.
Right. It might, you might get mixed up on your words because you're nervous. And so
because you're thinking too much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's for sure what happens with me.
I agree with you on that. I agree. And I think it is a real thing, but I think the more that you would do it, the easier it would become. And especially, I know that you all pray as a family, and especially, and I'm sure that you all pray as a family, the more that you, I believe, teach your children how to pray out loud, the easier it will be for them as they grow in their faith and as they get older. It'd just be, as simple as, oh yeah, turning the light on. It's that easy for them. So it might be hard too if you're not raised in it as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think Malachi obviously has done a good job. He doesn't have an issue with praying out loud most times. So he's always led like the family prayers, and like the kids really wanted this year to start praying in the mornings before we get to school. And so we do that every morning. And Malachi always, led that, but now Bentley's taken that.
Oh.
And so he's been leading it. So just watching. So
he's taken the lead on that.
Yeah, he's been praying, in the mornings now.
That's so sweet. That's very sweet.
We just got to get Lexi now though, but she's like me. So
she's a little reserved,
Yeah.
little reserved. So let's talk about this, because I do have some stats that I would like to read here in a few minutes, but I could just I want to go a little bit deeper into that conversation, if that's okay, about attacks and how that, the attacks of, you said the enemy And how do you recognize, you know, when we are under attack, a spiritual attack? How have you learned in your walk with Christ to recognize that this is a spiritual attack, or if it's just, you know, not everything is an attack. And
Sometimes it's just life.
yeah, exactly. Sometimes it is just life. But how have you two learned how to recognize? Obviously, you've been raised in this, and I was going to say sometimes to the extreme, which we won't get a whole into that yet.
Let's go there.
No. Stop it, Douglas. We will not. Well, maybe somewhat, somewhat. But what I'm saying is,
Speakerphone Jeremy too.
yeah. What I'm saying is, how have you, as adults now, recognized that the attacks are real, and how can you identify when this is an attack and when it's not, and what do you do about it when you do recognize that it's an attack, that you're under fire? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Well, it kind of is.
It is, but it's much needed. This is a topic that probably not a lot of people are covering, and it is very relevant for where we're at in the world today. And you could help somebody.
For me, I think it's a lot of times it's when everything seems like it's going great, and then there's just something that happens, and you can just tell that it's, you know, a lot. For me, I think most of it's, you know, an attack on marriage. Like it, you know, whether it's just something coming in between you and your spouse or things like that. Even though everything is going perfectly well, it just seems like that there's just something not, you know, right.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Something's off.
Yeah.
Out of balance. Well, which could be a good point, because I just got a visual of something, because you're building a deck out here, and I noticed yesterday that you had your level out. If that level is not completely leveled, it ruins everything, correct?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is with marriages, that you said that you can just sense something's just not all right. Maybe it might not be off that much, but even one minute could destroy everything. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I don't know.
Not necessarily destroy everything, but you know where I'm going with that. If something, it's an indicator that something's not right.
Yeah.
It's an indicator. It's a blinking red, or maybe a blinking yellow.
Yeah.
Caution.
Yeah. I mean, I always try to, you know, tread lightly with blaming something on, you know, something else, because I do believe, you know, we're in a world where things are gonna, like, it happens. Like, that's why we're put with free will, and, you know, that wouldn't exist if you just blame every single thing on whether, right, you know, the devil's attacking me on everything. So I always tread lightly on it, on what I think is that. I mean, obviously it's not a big deal. You know, what harm is it even if you did think that everything was, but I don't know.
Well, so I want you to chew on that just a little bit, on how do you sense when you're under attack? Maybe not necessarily in your marriage, but let's just say in general that you're under attack. You chew on that, because you still didn't answer that completely, and I'm waiting for an answer on that one. How have you learned? Because you are, not that you're not spiritual, by no means, and I don't mean that this way at all, but I know that you are very tuned to the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And there is, when you're very in tune with the Spirit, not that you're not, that's not what I mean, by no means. But tell me, how have you learned when you're under attack, and the difference?
I would say mainly for me would be when, I feel a lot of anxiety. I think anxiety is, and a lot of people deal with that. And sometimes I think that people don't even know that they're dealing with, anxiety. Fear is a big one. It's like I'll just have like this come over me of this anxiety and this fear. And it's like that's immediately when I recognize that, because obviously we know that God didn't give us a spirit of fear or of anxiety. So when you know that stuff, then that's when you can really start recognizing,
Right. The difference.
Yeah.
When you're under spiritual attack. Do I have your permission to talk about something? This has been a while back, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about it, but I think it might help somebody. Is when you knew for certain that you had come under attack, and you had felt like somebody was literally had their hands on your throat. Am I okay to share that?
Yeah.
And you had called me. So this, did you know about this? So this was a while back. And you had called me. You had went somewhere. You had been invited somewhere. And there was quite a few of individuals that were there that were higher up, let's say, in the music world.
Yeah.
Higher up in the music world. And you had been invited to come. And you had said that you don't even know why you were there.
Yeah.
You didn't understand why they had invited you, which that was just your own feeling less than.
Right.
So you had went to several of these, but this particular night you had went and you called me and you were really upset. Not upset, angry. You were upset. You were crying.
Yeah.
And you had said that you don't know what happened, but when you went to talk, when you were asked a question and you went to answer the question, and it had felt like somebody literally had put their hands on your throat and you couldn't get your words out. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And immediately the Spirit of God rose up in me, and I recognized that was an attack, which you knew it was an attack already.
Yeah.
But the Spirit of God, do you remember hearing, did I tell you about this?
I remember it.
Yeah. It was a big deal. And the Spirit of God rose up in me, and I immediately started backing that spirit of intimidation down, because that's what that was. That was the spirit of intimidation trying to stop you from speaking or going into your next place where God's called you. We talked about that on the last podcast, how the enemy's always trying to stop your next. What's the next step for you? He's always, anytime at all that you're going to make a difference, don't think for 1 second that will not come under attack, because it will. He does not want you to make an impact. He doesn't want you to change the world, because inside of each and every one of us is the ability to be world changers. And the moment that we recognize that, the moment that we realize, wait a second, I was created in God's image. Therefore, there is no weapon that can form against me that will prosper, and God will bring it down. God will destroy it. But it's going to be me recognizing and backing that down. So we immediately started praying and backing that spirit of intimidation. And I believe that's what I told you. I said, Christy, you were just confronted with the spirit of intimidation, which brings me to when Paul was talking to Timothy and said, God didn't give us the spirit of fear. You had just quoted that. God didn't give us the spirit of fear.
Yeah.
And in that particular text, which I've taught this before, in that particular passage of scripture, that word fear actually means intimidation. That's actually in the Hebrew word. That's what that means. And so what Paul was trying to tell Timothy is, God didn't give you that spirit of intimidation, because that spirit of intimidation is real, and it will stop you, and it will stop the call of God on your life if you allow it. And that's what, Paul was mentoring a young pastor, Timothy. He was mentoring him. And that's what he was telling him. Don't you dare. When you walk into a room, You walk in knowing God's already went in before you. When you walk into a place, you walk in knowing that God has already prepared your next season. You just got to walk in there knowing that the table you sat at is God's table, and the enemy can't knock you out of it.
Mm-hmm.
He can't. Yeah. Unless we choose to rightfully get up out of our position. And that's what he tries to do when he puts us under this spiritual attack, this warfare that we're being hit everywhere. You know, I have learned after 25 years of being a Christ follower now, when I'm under attack, I know when I'm under attack, and I can recognize it. And, you know, I can choose to position myself for war. Man, I just felt that. Ooh, I just felt that. I'm sorry, but I just felt that down in my belly. I felt that. We can choose to position ourselves for war, or we can choose to when they run from the battle, what is that? Or they run, concede, or AWOL. What does AWOL mean? That's what I'm hearing. AWOL. What does that mean? Does that mean when you run and they can't find you?
AWOL is when somebody's signed up for the military and
they run.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I heard. AWOL. We can choose to position ourselves for the battle, or we can be AWOL and we just run from the battle. But as for me, I choose to position myself, and we position ourselves with, one, recognizing when we're under the spiritual attack, two, knowing the Word of God, what the Word of God says over our life, who we are, and He has equipped us. He has equipped us with the truth, which is ultimately the Word of God. Mm-hmm. So what did you do once you recognized that after we got off the phone? I don't know that we discussed it again.
I mean, I'm sure obviously I continued to pray, and then at first, obviously my initial thought was I'm not going back, but obviously that next time I went back, and
you
I think
went back.
That's, you know, I think that's the point, is you just got to keep showing up.
Keep being faithful and showing up. And that's exactly, I think you did say, I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not going back. So when you felt that coming on you, mm-hmm. you said you literally couldn't get your words out.
Yeah.
It was trying to trip you all up, mm-hmm. but you still showed up. The next one, you were there.
Yep. And that's how I think that's how he always is, with that anxiety or like that tight chest feeling that I mean, it's been since I've been a kid.
Right.
And I think that, you know, I just had, just a few nights ago, I woke up and I literally woke up and I felt like I was having a panic attack. And like, I knew immediately. And that's what I had told Malachi that next day. My heart was racing. Like, I just woke up and it had happened like a few nights. And that's like, that's what starts happening with me. And so then I just started actually putting on worship music and going to bed. And so now it's gone. So,
wow. So it's real. And I don't think, I think being in, being a Christ follower as we are, I think we're always going to have the attacks, and just learning to press. We got to press towards the mark and just always keep pressing, recognizing, backing it down, and keep moving. Did you think any more on that?
Not really. No, I mean, for me, I don't know. I just know. Mm-hmm. I can just tell. Like, it's just, there's something, I don't know. I definitely just know. I can, like I said, for me, I mean, you can it's going to attack your business, things in the business.
Yes.
Like, it's going to attack your family. It's like I told Chrissy not too long ago, there was some stuff that went on, and it just felt like it was just something that was coming at me that was trying to draw me and Christy apart.
Right.
So that goes with the business, our family, me and Alicia's marriage.
Right. Absolutely. And that's a good point, Douglas, because, being, the family business and the tax, ultimately, our business and our business has been under fire. Not here recently. I'm just saying in the past, there have been times that, you recognize when, the attacks are coming. And again, we can just go back. The tax can either stop you or they can really propel you and provoke you to say, not on my watch. Not on my watch will anything be lost. It's not on my watch. So we can either look at it through that lens or retreat. Yeah. And so, but as a family, through those attacks, we have grown so much stronger. The attacks on the business or the attacks on the family or whatever it might be, we have grown much stronger.
Yeah.
I just think in general, like I think that that's the main thing is the family in general, whether that is your spouse or that's the main thing that's going to be the attack. And the hard thing about us is our business is our family.
Yes, so it is.
That's the last thing that he wants is a family to last.
Oh yeah. And that's why I believe too, God created the family unit first, right? So that's why the attacks come against the family, I believe, because if he can destroy family and if he can put in if he could get just a tiny, tiny foothold, then before you know it, his whole foot's going to be in it. If he can just get one tiny toe in there, he'll take it. And so he's always after the family because God's heart is family. He created the family unit first.
And I think with like how we were talking about just how Douglas said, like some things happen and it wasn't even like big things, but yet he was feeling like kind of like the enemy trying to put a wedge between me and him. And just the point that he also confronted that.
Oh, yeah.
Like he came to me and said, this isn't going to make a wedge, like basically. And I think just the point that he confronted it versus just
letting it happen or dismissing it.
Like maybe what I'm feeling isn't even right, different things like that. And I think that just the point of the leadership of confronting as well.
Oh, that's good. I don't even know what y'all are talking about. I didn't know anything about this one. So
just the chain of events recently with different things.
Yeah, I don't even know. But no, I'm glad. Like which it just shows you. I mean, I don't have to know. I don't have to know everything. But like you said, Christy, just the leadership of Douglas coming to you and confronting and saying, hey, I don't know if there's anything, but I'm going to hit this dead on right now and we're going to stop at the buck stops right now. Like we're not going to allow any.
And at the time, I didn't feel anything at all. And so, but if he was feeling that, then it's probably the enemy starting to kind of, to where then that made me aware and I put,
Right.
To where then, so.
Aww. They love each other. They true. He's always been her protector. Growing up, he always has been, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Always.
Even
to the point where it was a little frustrating for you growing up.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, it's a good topic. It may not be all about business, but that is.
Well, you might as well lead into it with business then.
Well, we could, yes, absolutely.
Because I'm sure you've been attacked with the business.
Oh, I've been attacked probably more times on my hands and toes, and I can't even tell you how many times I have been attacked under the, and I can see now why that the business has been under attack. Before, and I know attacks will still come. As long as you have a pulse, you're going to be under attack at times. As long as you have a pulse, and when you become a threat, the enemy's not going to bother somebody that's not a threat to him. It just doesn't work that way. And so, yes, I have been under attack. with the business many times. Many times I have felt, well, definitely prayer. Prayer has pulled us through many, many battles in the business as a young girl, not having all the answers, still don't have all the answers. The moment that you think that you're the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. And that is the truth. And so we're always going to have problems arise. It's how you address the problems. Again, like you were saying, it's how we address them. Mm-hmm. But definitely being prayerful when problems do arise, that we have the wisdom to know how to handle them, especially in business, because, one mistake could be very costly. One mistake could completely derail everything. So we are going to make mistakes, but you just hope and pray that the mistakes that you make, that you have asked for the guidance of God, and that, you're prayerfully making the right decisions. That's what I want to say. Prayerfully making the right decisions when, problems or attacks come. And so, yes, we have been under attack before. Yes. So, which brings me, let's talk about this.
I was going to say, you think that that's what that is in the first
It could
year?
be. It could be. So let's talk about this. So I have some stats for you. We talk a lot about stats. Mm-hmm. In just general, when you and I are talking, because I am a stat person. Show me the statistics on it. Let me see it. So, 20% fail within the first year. So, let me just go through these. Real quick.
Is this just small businesses, family businesses?
This is small business in general.
Okay.
This is small business just in general. I didn't do small business, which I need to do that. But this is just small business in general. 20% fail the first year.
Business in general.
What is it?
You said this. You didn't get the one for small business, but this is small business in general.
Small business in general.
You mean business in general? Businesses in general.
Businesses. This is businesses in general.
Yeah.
No, actually, this is small business.
I think she was meaning to say family business.
Whatever.
She didn't get the family business.
Okay,
stats.
I gotcha.
When you go back, I was correct. You were wrong. All right. 20% fail within the first year. 20% fail. 30% fail second year. 50% fail within the first 5 years. And 70% fail within the first 10 years. So, and this is the Bureau of Labor's statistic business dynamics where I took that from. So do I think that these could have something to do with it? It could. I mean, absolutely. Maybe some might not can recognize, but I believe that, the stat against the first year is so critical. 20% fail within the first year. But I think that the one that blows my mind the most is the 10-year mark. Is getting to that 10-year mark. Well, even 5 years, 50%. So getting past that 5-year mark, you have a 50-50 chance of surviving past that 5-year mark. You got a 50-50 chance. I believe that, obviously I've got a lot of things wrote down here. I believe that number one, we can talk about this. Number one, I think that why small businesses fail within that first 5 years is, number one, I think that cash flow has a lot to do with it. I think, now this isn't in any particular order. This is just my professional opinion on why I think. As a business consultant now, I think too, not knowing your numbers, I think that's so critical for any small business owner to know where you're standing at. You would be surprised at the business owners that don't know their numbers. You would be, because you've traveled with me quite a bit. And because you work with small business owners, you would be surprised at the ones that say, I don't know. If I say, okay, tell me what your payroll percentage. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is your supply cost? I don't know. What they don't know their numbers. And I can say this, and a lot of times I hear too is I don't have a good program, like, QuickBooks, for example. That's no excuse. It really is not an excuse, because going back to when I was a young girl, I always knew my numbers. Even when I didn't really even know how to do it, I still knew enough to write it down, just get a notebook.
Well,
You knew how much was coming in,
it was
and
like
then how much
balancing a
was going out.
checkbook, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it's
balancing a
adding
checkbook,
and
which,
subtracting.
Yes.
probably 90% of our generation doesn't know how to balance a checkbook.
Oh, that's true. That is very true. And it is. It's knowing, what you got coming in, what's coming in, what's leaving, what's entering, what's exiting. You've got to know this. It's basically business 101. I mean, that's just taking it back to the basics of knowing where you're standing at all times. So I think the number one, obviously, cash flow, which comes back to not knowing your numbers. Like, you got to know. You got to know. It's just like running your household, right? You know what it takes to run your house. Well, you got to know what it takes to run a business. And if you don't, that's probably, I would say, one of the number one reasons is not knowing your numbers. Not knowing exactly where you're at.
Yeah.
And so you just cap out. And then obviously I think there's more that goes into that, which we can talk about that on another one. I think there's, people tire out, getting, stats prove that most small businesses, I can't remember the stat on this one, but it's up there. It's way up there, that won't make it past the $250,000. They rest right around 250. 260, somewhere around there.
For me, I think that 50% 5-year, I chalk a lot of it to being like somebody they probably, when they first start their business, they have these huge, a huge dream,
Yes.
huge vision. They probably thought about a 5-10 year plan, something like that. Then
Yep.
they get to that 5-year and they're not even close to what they thought they were going to be at. And then they just pack in the bags and call it quits.
They
So
do.
they don't go in with that mindset, which quite honestly, some of them probably didn't have any business being there in the first place.
Very true.
Just because we're not all cut to be business owners and entrepreneurs. That's just, that's as simple as, survival of the fittest. We're not all equipped to do everything, and that's fine. But some people go into it with that mindset, thinking that they're going to have this $5 million business or even $1 million business or
Yes.
something within 10 years, and they don't reach it. So they pack up the bags and call it quits. So
Yeah. And I agree with you on that. I agree with you that, if it doesn't, because I believe, which goes back to, I believe we live in such a world that it's instant. People want to see instant results.
they don't believe in the growing pains of it,
and there
they can't stick it out through the growing pains.
That's right. And so they pack up their bags and then they're off to their next adventure. And then it's this vicious cycle, because it's going to happen again. And, with small businesses, 99% of the world, the economy is made up of small businesses. Small businesses are literally the heartbeat of this great United States of America. It's why it flourishes. So the small businesses are so needed. But through that same lens, it's teaching small business owners not to throw in the towel. And when the going gets tough, don't quit. Don't give up. But number one, you got to know your numbers. Number two, you got to plan. You got to have a game plan down. You got to know where you're going and how you're going to get there, and what are you going to do when does get hard. What are you going to do when it gets hard?
Especially in our industry,
Yeah.
like you see it every day with how many people that you follow, coach, and so on. When it gets tough, instead of, going out and doing some labor, they'd rather sit in the office and just cancel those jobs for the day because they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough cleaners.
Right. Well, yeah, because this industry is a tough industry. It's a beast in itself. But, just the heart of a small business owner, it's already, you already are going into it with stats stacked against you. You already are going into it with odds that say you're not going to make it. But I'm here to tell you that 50%, it can change, and you can beat that with proper planning, knowing your numbers, knowing, obviously that's the number one, proper planning, knowing where you're going, having kind of somewhat of a gauge, a game plan, different things in place, when times get tough, have an outlet. Have somebody that can push you, that can say, you're not, you know what? You're not quitting today. It's not happening today. It's you're not quitting today. So having somebody in your corner, and obviously, knowing your market, you got to know your market. That has a lot to do with it as well. You got to know your market. You got to know what the market's demanding. You got to know, let's say, for example, you have this great thought and you're wanting to go into business doing this, whatever that is. Well, make sure that there's a market for that. We talked about this last night in one of my coaching groups. Not every vision that you have is a God vision. Mm-hmm. Not every vision that you have is a God vision. So make sure that when you have this creativity, like you have this thought, like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. This is going to be the next big. Make sure that there's a market for that, because you're already going in with the odds stacked against. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So make sure that what it is, do your research on it. Do a lot of studying on it to make sure that it is, and that you're not just, we're not going to be known. Here's the thing. We can start 100 different things, right? But you know what we're going to be known for? We're going to be known for what we finish. Mm-hmm. Not how many things we started, but by what we finish. So I want you to remember that. So anyway, yes, the odds stacked against small businesses 5 years, but 70% will fail within 10 years. And I think that business owners, they get tired. They get tired of the climb. They get tired of the hustle. And which brings me to sometimes business owners, the business is hinged on them, which really and truly, if your business is hinged solely on you, you really don't have much of a business, because it requires you. It requires you to open the office up, to clock the office back. So when your business is solely hinged on you, that's hard to maintain. That's why I say create a business to where it's not hinged on you, to where if you're there, it's making money. If you're not there, it's making money.
And plus, what's the point?
Exactly.
What's the point of owning a business if you don't have the freedom to do what you want?
Number 2 reasons why people go in business for themselves: freedom and money. It's the number 2 reasons. Freedom and money.
I mean, I
and if you're not making money, you're doing something wrong. Find out what you're doing wrong. If you don't have freedom, you're doing something wrong. Find out what you're doing wrong. Because that's the number 2 reasons why people go in business for themselves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know it. Freedom's that would be it for me. I mean, because you can go anywhere and make money, but if you got a boss, what's the point?
That's right.
That's not any fun.
That's right.
And two things that I was just thinking of is when you were talking about like
all you had to do is tell me take a breather.
I just let you go. So.
That's all you had to do is tell me take a breather.
I try to interrupt.
But when you were talking about like making it past 50% and how you have to have, you want somebody in your corner, which obviously, yeah, that's amazing. But let's say that it's Monday and your call with your motivator isn't until Thursday. What do you do in that time frame?
That's very true.
You got to have another motivator. You got to have 2.
Well, and I was just thinking how in the Bible it tells us that we have to encourage ourselves. There are going to be days that you have to encourage
Oh, you were bringing it back
yourself.
spiritual. Yes, that's very true.
Because
It's
I
very
know
true.
that you didn't have all these resources.
Yeah, we talked about this one.
We did.
Yeah.
On one of the episodes that
We
are
did.
not aired anymore.
Yeah.
It
We
was
did.
the pilot episode.
Yeah,
So
we
if
did.
you caught it, you got
So-
lucky.
Yeah. So that's what I mean, because you didn't have all these people in your corner saying, yeah, you
I
got
did
this.
not. I
You
did
got
not. You're very right.
And so that's why and I'm all about it. Like, I believe, who you surround yourself with is definitely a big part of your success. But there are going to be days that it's going to be lonely.
Mama said there will be days like this. You're very true. There are times that you're going to be lonely and you're going to feel like I am out on an island all by myself. Nobody gets me. Nobody understands me. Nobody wants to hear me. And there are times when I still get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
I still get to where I feel like nobody nobody understands where I'm coming from. And you do have to encourage yourself. You do have to look back at your journey thus far and say, you know what? I may have, we talked about on the last podcast, failing, and that we're going to fail. It's 100%. 100% you're going to fail at times. But it's in your rising up that counts. It's not staying down. Mm-hmm. It's not, the Bible says a just man falls how many times? 7. Yeah. But he gets back up. And so we're in it to win it.
Yeah. It's like,
I knew I was going to use that somehow or another today. We're in it to win it. And it just came out.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same concept as like when we show up to church on Sunday and we walk out of church, pastor just preached an amazing message. You feel like you're ready to go. And
Yep.
then you wake up Monday morning and you're like,
you're under spiritual attack and you're like
I need
what
that back.
happened?
Yeah. And
Like-
it's the same thing.
Well, that's why I believe too that we can't go by our feelings, because our feelings are just that. Mm-hmm. They're up and they're down and they're back and they're forth and they're high and they're low. So we got to just hold to what we know. Why did we start our business? Why did we go into business for ourselves? Freedom. I got to remember that. Why do you...
So I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No.
but then there's the hard part, because you have, like, let's say it's moving good.
Mm-hmm.
You have freedom, but you got to keep yourself motivated, even though you have the freedom.
That's right. Well, and that's a good point, because with whole, being a small business owner, entrepreneur, if you started your business, a fire starter, that just like, I just thought of that word, a fire starter. Like,
You're always
yeah, I
coming up
know,
with
I
words.
do. God
Just
gives
call it
me
the Micah
words.
Race Dictionary.
I know. That's good. That is so good. That is true. God's always given me words. Honest to God, he is. You know that. He's always like, that just came to me, fire starter. But anyway, if you're a fire starter.
Next
and
business,
so,
fire starter.
yes. So it's keeping yourself motivated when you don't have anybody to motivate you. You don't, and it's being disciplined. And that is, you got to be disciplined as a small business owner. You got to show up on the days you don't feel like it. You got to roll yourself up out of the bed.
Even if you don't have to.
Even if you,
That's what I'm saying. Like right now, take for instance us, OCS.
Mm-hmm.
Things are great.
Mm-hmm. Great.
We
Did you
can-
say he said great?
Well, at least
I
from
know.
my perspective. I'm sure from Christy's being. But what I'm saying is,
and Alicia.
I could wake up at noon and no one would even know, minus this podcast, but I have to keep myself going. So,
Well,
even the people, because we're
wait a
at a
minute.
time where a lot of people work from home.
True.
So are you sitting in your
Well,
PJs all day?
Let's say this. I'm sorry. I got to say this before I forget it. I'm sorry. I got to say it. You said nobody would know if you slept till noon. I guarantee you I would know.
Well, probably, but you know what I mean.
Guarantee you I would know.
Maybe.
But I know what you're saying. I know you don't do
I don't-
that. You don't.
No,
you
I
don't take
don't.
advantage of anything.
No, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying I could
I
if I
know.
wanted.
I know what
but
you're
I
saying.
don't.
I know.
Definitely don't. Because I've got, like, I have to, when I make sure I wake up at a certain time, I make sure I'm fully dressed, even though I don't have to. I could go in the office and like
Yes,
I
yes.
have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to put socks on, pants. Otherwise, I'm going to be
Brush your teeth.
I'm going to be a lump on the log all day if I'm just
Yeah.
sitting in my PJs.
Yeah,
Well,
true.
that's what we talked about, remember? Because where I've been working from home more, especially with, as I've gotten closer, that was what I told you. Like, I have to wake up and fix my hair, put my makeup on, like
Make your bed. Like there's just these simple
you have
tasks.
to do these things, or you're just not going to get anything done that day.
Yeah, discipline, which comes back to being your own, discipline, motivate yourself, and get up and make something happen for the day.
Yeah, if you ever come over here and I'm still, in my shorts or whatever, that means I have had an unmotivated day. But I try,
Unproductive day.
Yeah,
even I force myself, even like put pants on, like
Gosh.
get going. Well, it is hard when you like, and especially in today's age, because there is so many people that work from home.
Yes, I agree.
And you don't have to. Even
I agree.
when you doing your coaching calls all day long, you don't have to get dressed.
But I do.
She does from.
Stop. That is not true.
Oh, it's sometimes true. Not all the time.
Sometimes.
I have
sometimes.
a picture. I have a picture.
Sometimes.
Of you. Maybe Douglas. I can give it to Douglas, and he can pop it up on the screen when he goes to air it. Remember, you came up and you were all done up. You had your lipstick on, your hair all done, your nice shirt, and you came up and you had just your sleeping shorts on.
They wasn't sleep. They were workout shorts.
I think they were.
They were.
But
They
I
were
think
not. They were workout shorts.
That's the main thing I was referring
I
to.
agree
is
with you.
We keep it real.
Setting,
We
like,
keep it
that's
real.
your biggest motivator for yourself. Is getting up, getting into some type of routine.
Yes.
Get out of the bed. Make your bed. Like that's just a simple task that can, as long as you get set in these routines. Because if you have no routine, you're never going to be motivated.
Right.
But once you get in your set routines, it's just enforcing yourselves to do those routinely.
Right. And I agree. I agree with you. Yes. 100%. And staying off of social media, staying off of stuff that, at the end of the day, it's time killers. That's all it is. It's time killers. And, get out and do something. Do something in your business. Do something new in your business. Think of new ways that you can connect with your clients or, your customers. Think of new ways that you can reach out to them. I'm telling you one thing right now, and we'll probably, I think I'm about talked out. Well, maybe not.
Okay, there's no way.
Yeah, I was about to say,
Maybe
you're
not.
about to
Maybe
go
not.
again.
Connect with, do something that connects with your customer. Whether that is, pick up the phone. People say, well, people really don't like phone calls nowadays. I beg to differ on that. I still believe it's old school style on that. I still believe people like to hear emotion, not just sending a text, which we will not even get into that because I can go down a whole thing on the whole word automate in small businesses. I believe in automate, but I believe in automate to a degree. Like, we don't automate everything. I still believe the old school way that people still like to connect, old school style. I want to say this, and I'll close with this. A few months back, we had went to Tennessee, Doug and I went to visit some family there, and there was, family in from Texas and Tennessee. They came, and long story short, we all went to dinner. And I looked at the dinner table, and it was just great. Not one person, there were 7 of us, not one person at the table had their cell phone out. I know, what are you laughing at?
I was just going to, how many of them were under the age?
They were my age.
45.
Scott?
I'm just joking.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm going to go with the point. You'll agree with me on this. Not one person had their cell phone out. And I looked around the restaurant, and every single table, people were on their phones. And I thought how sad it is. And, I think that was a moment for me that I really recognized, which you are hardcore on this. Yeah. She's not a social media person. She really is not. But it really hit home for me on that. And I thought, man, I'm so thankful that we are all present in this moment. Like, we're present. Nobody was worried about getting their phones out. Nobody was worried about checking their email, taking pictures to prove like, oh, we're family. We're going to take a picture and, we're all together. Nobody was interested. Everybody was engaged in conversation. And I saw this post the other day. And it was a post of somebody that had taken a picture. They were out.
Just keep rolling.
Okay.
It'd be audio.
They were out on a dinner. They were out for dinner. And she had taken a picture and she said, tell me that you're at a table with a bunch of business owners without telling me you're at a table with a bunch of business owners. Mm-hmm. And she had snapped a picture. And they were all on their cell phone. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, I thought, that is the saddest thing.
Yeah.
That is the saddest thing. That tell me you're at a table with a bunch of business owners when you're without telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that's so sad. That's where we've come to in society. That's where we've come to.
It proves our success.
It proves our success.
Yeah.
That no longer are we engaging anymore with one-on-one conversation. We're not engaging. But reach out. So reach out to a customer. Let them hear your appreciation of them being loyal to your business, being a supporter of your small business. Let them connect with them verbally. Connect with them verbally. So I'm going to close with that. All right.
It's good timing because we had the camera issue. But
okay. Everyone have a great week. And thank you for tuning in to our podcast. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.